We're back with Long Island Congressman George Santos. So you're running for re-election. What's your platform?
Platform is the same. Continue the progress that we're making in the House, led by the Republicans. We're for fiscal responsibility. We're for border security. We're for the Parents' Bill of Rights and parent consent in school education. We're for mitigating the crime crisis that we have going on all across our state. This is all across our country, really. But it's the same platform. It's just continuity of what we're doing. Like I said, I just want to be judged by my work in the body. Forget about the noise. This job is not about me. It's about you and how I represent you. That's all you need to think about. That's what the voters need to look at it.
But do you feel that you're going to have to say to the voters of Long Island in the 3rd Congressional District, I promise I won't lie to you again?
Yeah, no, look, I think I'm going to go back to this. Yes, to answer your question, but I think beyond that is, look at what I've done for you. Look at what I've accomplished for you. Look at my participation in representing your best interests in Congress. I think that's very important.
So you have introduced a number of bills.
Historic bills in some natures, too.
I mean, but some of them I don't actually understand, because I tried to look them up, and the summary is in progress. So what's the bill having to do with terrorist organizations?
So I'm just trying to declare organized gangs such as MS-13 and all these other gangs that come from Central and South America as terrorist organizations, because they reign in terror in their home countries, and they bring that same terror here into the United States. It's domestic terrorism.
But the question is, what do you want this bill to do? Well,
the bill is to designate them terrorist organizations, and it widens the scope of the federal government to pursue them. But if they're called a terrorist
organization, does that mean that they could have tougher penalties if they're arrested?
No, we expand the coverage and the resources that we pour into seizing them and to pursuing them from the federal government, from the FBI standpoint of view.
So it would force federal government to actually go after them as opposed to state and local government?
Yes.
So what's the Menage bill, the Menage Act?
So the Menage Act is a medical freedom bill. It was a creative way. Here's how politics works. Politics is boring.
Who's Minaj? Is this
Nicki Minaj?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So why are you naming a bill after her?
Well, she was very pro-choice on the vaccine situation and didn't like the mandates of the COVID-19 vaccine. And the reason I named the bill with some nuance there was simply to make sure that we can get pop culture meets politics, and we can harness the energy of a younger generation which necessarily doesn't enjoy politics, or layman people who don't pay attention to politics and say, oh, politics doesn't matter, but then you put some pop culture reference in there and you're opening the doors to politics to a whole new window of people.
Sounds again like you're doing your notoriety thing.
Well, I'm trying to bring more engagement into public policy. Isn't that a good thing, though?
So I also want to ask...
You make it entertaining, Marcia, so people can bear to watch C-SPAN, because it is boring.
Can you bear to... Never mind.
I cannot bear to watch C-SPAN. I'll answer that question.
You've also signed on to something called... I can't even begin to believe this. The Cattle Fever Tick Erudition Program Enhancement Act. Why did you sign on to this Cattle Fever Tick Eradication Enhancement Act? So
it's about good governance and working with your colleagues, and if it's an isolated...
What does that have to do with Long Island?
Well, nothing, but this is about supporting your colleagues who have issues in their districts, so you can go get support for your district.
What did you get in exchange for supporting the Cattle Fever Tick Eradication?
I'm building my asks, Marcia. I'm banking them for later.
So this is being supported by a Texas congresswoman. So what is she going to support? Salt and
I think this is the
cattle fever tick.
Look, this is the way it works. Look, a lot of the meat that we consume across the country comes from Texas. So it's in the interest of everyone else in the country. So this affects meat produce. This is a greater issue, right? But the reality is this is about working with your colleagues in the conference to further, the Republican platform, the Republican agenda. You wash my hand, I wash your hand, and we move forward.
So explain to me...
And that's a good governance bill, too.
Explain to me your relations with other congressmen. I mean, do you find that they're hesitant to put their arms around you publicly because of the notoriety that you have?
I mean, if you just look at the way I carry myself on the House floor, I talk to as many people as, you know, humanly possible. I talk to people on the other side. I say hello, good morning. I was raised to be polite. I was raised to always be cordial. If anybody's trying to insult me, I still try to, you know, kill them with kindness. But I talk to folks that to the extent of my knowledge, there's no people other than the New York Republicans who disparage me and go after me publicly. I haven't experienced that at large, not even with the Democrats.
Do you have any friends in the New York delegation?
Yeah, sure, I do. Look, I'll put it this way. I don't want to put people on the spot, but I have a great working relationship with Congresswoman Grace Meng. We have bordering districts. My office has reached out to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because we have a common interest that we have that benefits our district, and we're trying to set up a meeting.
You two couldn't be further apart.
And yet, I would be willing to work with her.
She's willing to work with you?
Well, I don't know that yet.
I mean, she's a left of center Democrat, and you are definitely right of center Republican.
So let's do this. I'm co-sponsoring her bill this week to ban independence, to ban stock trading for members of Congress. That's how much sometimes.
You're co-sponsoring her bill?
Yes.
Did she say
I put in the request. I want to co-sponsor. It's a great bill.
And would you support that bill?
Of course. I don't think members of Congress should trade stocks. Have we learned nothing from watching all of these congressmen and women becoming absolutely filthy rich at the backs of the American people?
My mind boggles.
But Congress does that to you.
AOC George Santos bill.
Oh, it's not an AOC George Santos. It's an AOC with a few other folks. I'm just going to co-sponsor it because I support the AOC.
What do you gain by doing that?
Well, I want the bill
wrapping yourself around AOC.
I'm not wrapping.
In your district, you're going to wrap yourself.
I'm not wrapping around AOC. What I'm doing is I'm showing to the American people, just like Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's also he's a sponsor with her on the bill. They're the two members leading the bill along with two others. It's just about showing that there are still people in Congress who think that the best interest of Congress is for the American people, not self-serving interests. This is a good governance bill. It's a housekeeping bill. We need a clean house, and I think if I can be on the same page as AOC at least once, I'll take it. I'll take it. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Is she a broken clock?
I don't know. Some might say that.
So, as a Republican, I presume that you support a strong defense.
I support defense. I support a strong defense budget. I do support also housekeeping in our defense budget because it's, you know, as I'm learning, there's a lot of waste.
So you're calling for cuts in the defense budget?
I'm not calling for cuts. I think we fund the defense system, but we also need to start running audits simultaneously. We'll fund them, run audits. Next budget, we'll figure out the deficiencies, inefficiencies, and that's when we start to rein in some of the waste.
I wonder how you feel about the condition of the nuclear triad.
You know, there's so many different feelings around it. I don't have one, Marcia. It's not something I'm personally.
Are we ready?
I don't know.
I mean, as you probably know, what the nuclear triad is our nuclear defenses. So it's, you know, missiles fired from submarines, missiles fired from land-based places, and also our bombers. So the question is, are we ready, given the fact that North Korea has been, you know, testing all these ballistic missiles, Russia is rattling sabers, are we ready, God forbid, if we were going to need this? And there have been reports that the nuclear triad is not up to snuff.
Look, it's a concern, right? And I think that we're spreading ourselves too thin. We're engaged in supporting Ukraine in the fight against Russia, and it's just, we're spread very thin. I have utmost confidence in our military that they wouldn't leave us vulnerable. You know, and until
that would mean that you want to spend more money on defense.
If I don't see, if I were to sit at a hearing and hear the Joint Chiefs say that they're not ready, as a member of Congress, I would urge my colleagues to make them ready.
Okay, well, we're going to be right back with more from Congressman George Santos.